the period from 2004 to 2008, a substantive amount of progress was made in the form of CBMs that were agreed to between the two countries. CBM relating to peace and security, CBMs relating to Kashmir issue, CBMs relating to people-to-people contact, cultural relations, etc. Progress was also made in bilateral trade as well. Now that the two countries are ready to embark upon a new round and a new process of the dialogue process, I would just try to, since we do not have much time, I would just try to focus on where to go from here, rather than dwell on what has so far been achieved or could not be achieved and why it was not achieved, etc. I think my personal advice to the two delegations would be that as they start their dialogue process, they should first have a look at all that was agreed to in the last 4 years of the composite dialogue, and to see what went wrong. Because if you really look at it, a lot of things or CBMs that were agreed to have not really functioned very well, except for one or two. In most of the CBMs, the letter probably was followed a little bit, but the spirit behind them was not followed. The cross-LOC trade, for example, suffers from a lot of hindrances, a lot of difficulties, because there are no banking facilities, there are too many impediments. Cross-LOC movement, which was agreed to, and the bus service, again, the purpose behind that CBM was that to give relief to the Kashmiris so that the divided families could meet more frequently and so on. But the process of getting permission was made so tedious and so difficult that it, rather than encouraging more contact and helping more contact, it prevented easy contact. I think these are points where the two governments should sit down, and in fact, instead of negotiating, this requires really an implementation at their own level. What does each government do in order to implement all that was agreed to? For example, if anybody who tries to get a visa for India would find out how difficult it is to get a visa for India from the High Commission here, and the same holds true for the High Commission, Pakistani High Commission in Delhi, the difficulties that the Indian people feel in getting the visa. The idea was that the visa regime should be made so easy that it should not take more than a couple of days for people to get a visa, or a week or something like that. Now months pass and nothing happens. This is something, these are things that the two governments should look and see how they can at least facilitate that people-to-people contact. The governments may be suspicious of each other, may move cautiously, and perhaps in certain cases may be justified in moving cautiously. But at least they should not be cautious about the movement of people across the border. People want peace. What one had noticed in early 2004, when the whole process started, was the remarkable enthusiasm at the popular level that was displayed by the armed army, the public, the Janta as Indians call it. They all were greatly enthusiastic about a process that was initiated. So this is one point that they should have a look at. Then the whole menu of the composite dialogue sectors that the talks were being held on needs to be examined, and this time one more item has been added, I think, humanitarian issues. But if we look at all those and see what can be done to see how progress can be made, rather than just sitting across and discussing things and going in circles. And I can assure you that India and Pakistan both have extremely competent diplomats, and they can keep talking till kingdom come in a very sophisticated manner without reaching any conclusions or without finding any solutions. But I think a paradigm shift in that should take place, and the negotiators should really sit like negotiators and not like gladiators fighting duels or battles. I think that is where, and if you look at those subjects, for example, in Siachen, we had already reached an agreement in 1989. 89 is a long time ago, and we have not been able to implement that. And unfortunately, in that, the blame lies more on the Indian side because of their military being very cautious about certain points and insisting on certain preconditions which were earlier on when the agreement was signed but were really not there. So the Siachen issue really needs no further discussion. All it needs is an implementation formula and an agreement to be implemented because we'd already agreed to a demilitarized zone in the Siachen Glacier area and the delineation of the line of control beyond the LJ 9842 to be negotiated through peaceful settlement by the technical people from both sides, surveyors and so on and so forth. So I think if there is an intention and desire to resolve issues, I think this is an already resolved issue and that resolution should be implemented. Same holds true for Silk Creek. I think Silk Creek will probably be implemented in any case because the two sides are under pressure because of the law of the sea conference, and both sides have to register the maritime boundary with them. And so they will have to really do something about it by 2013, I think is the cutoff date. But I hope it is done earlier than that, because again, Silk Creek is a non-issue which has been made into an issue. Something that was decided, the line was demarcated in 1914 between the state of Kutch and the province of Sindh. It has not been demarcated on the ground since then, and it is a great pity that it's not. Again, the two sides, in a spirit of accommodation, had agreed to do the surveys from either side. The creek has changed course completely. So the surveys have been done, and all that needs to be done is for the surveyors from both sides to sit down and resolve the boundary there. So these are two which can be immediate success stories if there was an intention and a desire to move forward. As far as Kashmir issue is concerned, again, a lot of progress was made in discussing the out-of-the-box thinking 4-point formula that former President Musharraf had suggested, and the back channel had made reasonable progress in working out a framework. It was not an agreement that they were negotiating. I think there's a lot of misperception about that. It was more of a framework that was being discussed, which would then was to be brought onto the front channel and discussed openly. So I think the two sides can benefit from what progress was made in the past and move on to resolve this long outstanding issue and a long festering wound which is really bedeviled relations between the two countries.